Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live. I am Mary Fran Bontempo here with my buddy, Kristen Smedley. And we have, if you're from the Philly area, we have a superstar today.
Wow.
We have a superstar. Luann Cahn, who was a reporter, literally decades looking at Luann on TV. She was a reporter for a Philly station, a local Philly station, and she is with us today. She has an amazing story. She's got a book. She's teaching at Temple now. She's just the epitome of brilliantly resilient. So Luann, welcome. We are so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. And I thank you for doing this podcast. I mean, we all have to be brilliantly resilient right now. So I know you're providing a really great source of support as we're all trying to figure out what we're doing.
Figure this train wreck out. Yeah.
Get through day to day.
Yeah.
And changing day to day too, huh? Gosh.
We have to. We
Yeah.
have to. Every single day is a challenge right now. We've never done this before.
No, and we're making up the rules as we go along, I think, too, so it's certainly the time to try things. And that is one of, there's a segue for you. That's one of your great things. You and I met it's been about 6 years ago now that we first actually met.
Yeah.
And when I heard your story, I was just dumbfounded because I had no idea about the challenges, your health challenges, and all of those things that you had to go through. So when we talk on this show about the reset, the rise, and the reveal your brilliance, you did that multiple times.
Oh, yeah, I did. And, unfortunately, sometimes it takes multiple times to go through challenges before you learn. You finally get it. Sometimes I wonder, and I know you guys relate to this. You've survived so many things, but I keep thinking I got to mess it up so many times.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
I was not always a good survivor. I made mistakes along the way. Here I am, I'm 63 years old and made so many mistakes. And now I'm like, oh, finally I can share some wisdom of, maybe how to do it right.
It takes a while.
It does take a while.
That makes me feel
and I
better.
think that's part of the thing that we try to get across to people. Like you don't arrive at this. You work at it, and it's a process that you yeah, darn it.
Well, we learn more from our mistakes, right? This is what I always tell my students. We definitely learn more when we screw it up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. Sure. So tell us a little bit about, obviously we'd love to hear a little bit about your history in Philly and all that, but can you, if you're comfortable, sharing some of those periods where you got sucker punched and then had to just reset, and how you got to this brilliant message that you have today that you share with everybody?
Well, it's so interesting the time we're going through right now, because it really is an echo, at least for me, feels very similar in some ways to 2009 when the economy tanked.
Yes.
And for me, I was still at NBC 10, was a veteran TV news reporter, had my own investigative unit, was really at what I would consider the epitome, at the peak of my knowledge and wisdom and experience in my career. Mm-hmm. Had won 8 Emmys and was really loving everything I did. And then the economy tanked and everything changed. Again, not unlike what's happening now. People were losing their jobs. But on top of that, all this new technology was happening, right? Can you believe, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, social media was just starting, even texting on the phone. If we could go back then, using our phones for camera, right? And I hated all of it. I resisted all of it. My friends were losing their jobs. I was, in this position I had loved. And then my managers came to me and said, you're going to have to work differently.
Ugh.
you're going to have to learn to shoot and edit and Facebook and tweet. And I was like, get out of my face.
Now I know why you and Mary Fran are friends. Because I'm like, you have
Right?
to tweet this. And she goes,
Oh,
no.
right.
No,
No.
we're not doing that. I hate it.
I'm sorry. This is not journalism. This is not what I'm used to. I know what I'm doing. Go away. I didn't want to change, right? But change was happening. There was an avalanche of change. We were, again, very, very similar to what's happening now. But I resisted it all. And month after month, and they let me, because I had been at the station a long time, and they let me just be stubborn and dig my heels in. But all the while, I became more and more miserable as the change was happening with or without me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was feeling more and more out of step as I refused to adapt, as I refused to change, as I refused to do new things. And I went through about a year like that, where I was miserable, angry, ticked off, not happy where I was. And on top of that, I was a 2-time cancer survivor at that point. I'd already survived breast cancer. I had already survived kidney cancer. I had already survived having my entire large intestine removed for ulcerative colitis. And I was about in my 50s, mid 50s, in 2009. I should have been doing the happy dance every day just to be breathing, just to be alive, just to be walking around. But I was miserable, angry about all the change. And it was my daughter who kicked me in the rear end and told me she was ashamed of me.
Oh, ouch.
Nothing like your kid.
Ouch. Yeah. When your kid smacks you in the back of the head, you go,
yeah.
something's really wrong here.
And Alexa is my only, and she had just finished college, and she was out on the West Coast, and she'd come home for the holidays, and she looked at me and she said, "You're a mess. You got to fix this. What is wrong with you?" And long story short, she convinced me that I had to start a blog. I didn't even know. It's like I didn't even know what a blog was at that point.
It's the easiest point of entry into the changed world of social media.
Yeah.
Ever.
In 2009, right? 2009, it was still like, what?
Yeah.
Blog. It's kind of like podcasting now. That's what a blog was back then. Like, okay, everyone was getting into doing it, right? And I said, well, listen, I'm working full time. I don't have time for a blog. I'm a full-time reporter. Get out of my face. And, and she wouldn't. And
she wouldn't.
They keep coming back.
And she wouldn't.
Really in my face about it and said, "Mom, you got to fix this." And she created a blog for me and said, "You got to fill this with something." And came up with the idea that and challenged me to do one new thing a day for a year.
For a year.
For a year. And this is how this insane journey started.
That is hilarious that you're like, no way. And then she says, not only do you have to do a blog, but you have to do one new thing every day. And then did she fly back to the West Coast, say, see ya?
Oh, yeah, she did. Yes, she did do that. Well, she got me started. This is what happened. She got me started, and then she went back to the West Coast and said, see you. Yeah.
So she couldn't hear you screaming and kicking the wall, right?
I'd be calling her like, well, how do I post? How do I do what? I don't know how to edit a video. How do I post this on Facebook? So anyway, but she, well, the first thing she had to convince me of was, how do you do one new thing a day?
Yeah.
That done before.
That sounds daunting. Because we have such routines in life. It's just, that's daunting.
It is daunting. And basically, she was the one who convinced me that I had to make a list of every simple thing that I had never done. And because she said they could be small things. Like I did not think of this. I'd love to this is why when I got my advance for my book, I gave the first money to my daughter. Without her, none of it would have happened, right? So she says, listen, make a list, Mom, of everything you've never done. So the first thing on my list, I always say, was eat dessert all day, because that is all I wanted to do, honey. I just
Oh, I
eat my
like that
way.
one. But were you sick of dessert by the end of the day?
Well, yeah, it was really bad. Don't do it. It's a very sickening thing to do. I mean, by 2 o'clock, but it was things like, I've never bought a lottery ticket. I gave out hugs one day, all day. I walked around the block backward with my dog. I mean,
So
my
in
dog
other
was
words, you
very,
were that
very
crazy
confused.
lady that everybody was
I
like,
was
what's
the crazy
You were
lady.
like
Luann?
Kristen Smedley, because nobody would bat an eye if I was walking backwards with my dogs.
Right. So the thing is,
Hilarious.
as I started posting, people started following me, and they were giving me ideas. Have you ever done this? Have you ever learned to juggle? Have you ever,
Wow.
eaten this? Have you eaten a Scorpio? People kind of started giving me ideas and following me. And along the way, I'm feeling happier. How
Wow.
insane is that? I'm stepping outside my comfort zone on a regular basis every day. And I realized I'm starting to kind of look forward to my day, because I know before the day's up, I'm going to do something for the first time. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you are stuck, I really truly believe this, as insane as it might sound, make your list, because it's a powerful first step.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of
Yeah.
everything we've yet to do in life. And
Well,
there's
and
a
we're
lot.
at that point in this environment where, it's perfectly appropriate, because everybody's home trying to figure out what to do next. So, I mean, my gosh, take that leap. And like you said, it doesn't have to be major stuff, but these little things that just make you go, huh,
Well, and the thing is, we hate change.
Yep.
Just as human beings, we hate change. We resist it. We have a no voice that automatically kicks in. Luann, you're going to be teaching your class on Zoom. No. What? Right? But I'm doing it. And I realize, wow, this isn't bad. I could have
It's
done
not
this
so
in my
bad.
pajamas before. What was I?
Yeah.
That's what happens every time Kristen tells me we should try something. I go, no.
Every
And then we
time.
do it anyway.
Because we fear it, and we naturally fear everything we've never done before. But it really does. And what I realized on this journey, it does prevent us from living our best life. Which I
Yeah.
know you guys talk about all the time.
It takes you, though, the interesting thing that you're saying, though, is that these little things really had nothing to do with the bigger issue of you feeling, like overwhelmed and being forced to change and all. But little by little, cracking those windows a little bit and just getting your mind around that concept of change isn't so bad, you were able to make bigger changes.
Well, that's exactly right, Mary Fran. That's exactly what happened. Because as I took these little steps that had nothing to do with anything, I mean, what does this eating a scorpion have to do with anything except you've lost your mind, right? But I started feeling happier, and then more courageous and willing to try bigger things and step further outside my comfort zone. So by the end of the year, like when I was at Channel 10, they knew I was on this journey at first, and I was an investigative reporter. But one day they said, hey, would you like to host the 10 show? I don't know if any of your listeners know what the 10 show was.
I remember. Oh,
It
yeah. Oh,
wasn't,
yeah.
okay.
Sure.
But we had entertainers and chefs and people come on the show, and Bradley Cooper. I'm like, oh yes, I know.
I'll do that job. Yeah.
Right. But I had never hosted an entertainment show, and I said yes. I was asked to teach a class at Drexel, and I said yes. I was just getting used to the idea that I was happier doing these new things, and it was naturally opening doors to me.
Wow.
It never would have been open. I like to say it's kind of like when you do new things, it's like throwing this pebble in a pond and the ripples go out.
Uh-huh.
And that's what happens. It just naturally happens. I'm sure it's happening for you as you started this podcast. I mean, one thing leads to another, leads to another. You start talking to different people, the ripples go out.
Yeah.
And it creates opportunities that you never would have imagined. And at the end of the year, I was asked to write a book. Like I blogged 365 days, had 365 videos of me doing crazy things, starting with the polar bear plunge. But again, like Fran, like what you said, it didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that
It's a mind, because it ends up rooting in here, in your head.
I had to change my mindset. I had to change my mindset to move forward. And then I did start shooting and editing my own video. And of course I'm on Facebook, and of course I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm going to learn about TikTok. I mean, I might be the last one on TikTok, but I'm going
No,
that would
Mary
be
Fran
me.
will be the last one.
That would be me.
I'm like, come on. I even put her in a TikTok, and she's like, I don't even understand this.
Right. But instead of saying no, and this is the thing, we start to learn there are rewards to saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you retrain your brain, and you realize when you hit your no voice that really everything you want, that old saying, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Yep.
I love that quote, and I think it's true. Everything you want is on the other side of no. And I talk to my students all the time. I mean, I speak for a living, and I talk to adults all the time, but my college students, I'm trying to get them to go to networking events and create their first resume and their first cover. It's all new, and they're terrified, right? I've got to convince them, you must dare yourself. You must try. You must get uncomfortable to learn.
Well, that's why I'm so excited you're working with the college crowd, because they need that. I have a college kid, and then I have high school kids, and I just watch so many of us parents are not letting the kids figure it out. We're not letting them do I'm like, everybody fail while you're home. Let's go. Let's just have a horrible time and fail at everything while we're here to put the pieces back together and show you how to rise back up, instead of doing it all for them, figuring it all out. And we think that we're doing them a service, and it's all done in love. And then they get out in the world, and it's like, wow, how am I supposed to do this?
As I tell my students, I can't do it for you. If I could, I probably would try, but I can't do some of these things for you. You have to do it. It's like, do we really have to go into a room with 80 employers and talk to? Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Or eat a scorpion today.
Or eat a scorpion.
Yeah, that's your choice.
Give them the choice. That's a great idea.
That's what you should do.
Or go to, I think most of them would choose the scorpion. Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to give them some choices. That's a good idea. Multiple choice.
Yeah,
Scorpion,
it's not as bad as a scorpion.
talk to employers, or polar bear plunge. I don't know.
Well, what I'm loving that I'm hearing is that two things. The word, and I know Mary Fran's going to love this one, and she gets to do her goofy thing with it. But so many times, the people we've talked to on this show, the word courage comes up.
Courage.
Yeah.
Like the
Because you have
Cowardly
to
Lion
say it
says
like
it.
that.
Courage.
Well, right. And the thing is, this was what I learned, and studies show this is true. Through this journey of first and getting uncomfortable, I was facing my fears. And when we face our fears, and it doesn't matter. Like one day I did the flying trapeze. Right? Terrifying.
Oh my gosh.
Right? But when I did it, I felt courageous.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel that courage, you face a fear, whether it's a physical fear or something you never thought you would do, you get to transfer that courage to other parts of your life.
Yeah.
You realize, I am resilient, to use your word. I am resilient. I'm not going to fall. I might fail, but I'm not going to fall. I'm going to be able to get back up. And that courage you bring to all other aspects of your life. I was working with a woman. I just saw her on Facebook the other day. I was so excited. She had never learned to swim. She had 5 kids. She has 5 kids, and lives in Philly. And she had contacted me because she wanted to learn to swim. She was terrified because of an accident when she was a kid.
Oh,
Yeah, but now her kids were in the pool and the ocean, and she wanted to be able to enjoy that time with them. So she got a lesson at the YMCA, and she invited me to be with her to see her take her first lesson. Right? She didn't even own a bathing suit. She got in that water with her 10-year-old daughter pushing her and applauding her and saying, "Go, mom," right?
oh,
And she was so proud of herself. And when she got out of the pool, her name is Carmen, when she got out of the pool, she told me, and she's given me permission to tell her story because it's personal. And she said, I want you to know that I've been changing my life. I've been facing my fears. When I was a young woman, I was arrested for selling drugs, and I went to prison for 5 years.
wow.
5 years. And she said, every single day I was in prison, I thought about how I'm going to change my life when I get out of here and do things differently. And she did. When she got out, she went back to prison to teach other women how to live a better life. She went back to school and got her undergrad degree in criminal justice, and now she's working on her master's. She changed her diet. She started really looking at the things that held her back, like not learning to swim. But the thing she said was, every time I face one of my fears, I feel more courageous.
Go, Carmen.
I know. And so you can create courage. You can, but we can't create it without facing the things that keep us back, or especially those. I met a woman who wouldn't visit her daughter because she was afraid to drive over bridges. And
Oh,
that's a fear. That is
My mother actually has that. Yeah, my mother's actually afraid to drive over bridges. Yeah.
right. So she came to hear me speak, and she said, okay, I'm done. I'm just like, I'm doing it. I am not living my best life. I'm not seeing my daughter. That is preventing me from doing something that's really important. And so she wrote me and said, I'm in the car. I am driving across bridges. I'm going to see my daughter. Right.
Oh,
And
that's
she's
wonderful.
so proud. Right.
Yeah.
With that courage from doing those things, we will influence everything else that we do.
And and a lot of the times when you have the courage to do something like that, then other stuff that would have scared you later seems small. So you're like, I mean, when I had to go back into the dating world and in my 40s.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, dating in my late 40s. So then after that, like somebody would ask me to on the fly do a speaking thing at these like really smart mucky muck things. And I'm like, psh, who cares about that? I went out and started dating in my late 40s. I'm a badass. I can do anything, you know?
Yes, exactly. But I mean, you know, those conversations you have in your head, like I started working on my master's 10 years ago. During this journey at first, I went back to school, which was one of the things I did because I always wanted my master's, right? And sure enough, I got through all the courses. I would take one course as I could, right? It took me forever. Finally, there's one thing I had to do, the thesis, like a 50-page thesis. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, just like, nope. I can't do it. I can do the coursework. I just, is there an option? You know, I'm telling the university.
Can I pick from column B?
Is there a way to like do something else?
Yeah.
You know? And they're like, no, this is it. This is what you have to do. And I finally just said, okay, right? I've done, and this is what you do. Exactly, Kristen, what you said. You go into your catalog of things you've done in your head. Well, I've done the polar bear plunge for you. I've dated, you know, in my 40s. I've, whatever it is, if, for God's sakes, you know, for me, you're a 2-time cancer survivor. Really? You can't do a frickin' thesis?
Get out of your own way.
Right. Yeah. Come on. And you have this conversation in your head, but all of that experience of remembering when you were gritty, when you were courageous, when you faced your fears helps you with your next thing. And I struggled through it all last summer. I said, that's it. Every day I'm locking myself up. I'm writing 5 pages. 5 pages, 5 pages, 5 pages, right? Finally, it was done. But
Yeah.
you have to have that experience to know
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
you've done all these other things, and you can do it. And
That word transfer that you used earlier, we talk about transferring a skill set a lot. You know, like you take these things that you've done in other incarnations or other circumstances or whatever, and you transfer them. But you can transfer a mindset too, and that's what I'm hearing from you there.
that's exactly right. You
Yeah.
can build courage. You
Yeah.
can build resilience. You can build courage, but you can't. You know, it's funny. I was talking about this the other day. I like you. I'll go on my Facebook page and just start talking. I was thinking about this idea that, you know, you can't hope it into
Right.
action. Like
You have to take
happen
action. That's the
right?
other thing. You have to take an active step. One step. And it doesn't even have to be related, like you said, to start on that journey.
Right, but we can't hope. If I could have hoped my thesis into being, I would have, because I was really hoping somehow I could just magically done, but I couldn't, and it was going to require a plan. It was going to require me breaking that down and figuring out step by step, what is it going to take to get this done? You know, if that's an hour by hour or day by day plan, and then finding some accountability partners. You know, you two are holding each other accountable here,
Oh, Lord,
right?
we are.
And you're right? And that, I mean, my daughter, whoever that, and you, maybe it's one person, maybe it's a few people that you know are so honest with you, and they know you. They are
Mhm.
not going to let you get away with you know what. They're not. They're going to push you. They're going to push you when they know you're not being your best self. And we all need those people. I think it was interesting when I started on this journey, some people who I thought I was friends with,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
right. Have you found that?
Oh, yeah.
When you change and you go on a different journey, and then
yeah.
some other people come forward who
And I
you
think we talk about this too, and I know you can relate to this. We talk about not being married to the outcomes when you start these things,
that's right.
because you really don't know where it's going to go. And I think that's a measure why the fear comes through, because it's that unknown. Like, okay, I'm here and I'm miserable, but I know this. What if I go out there? Well, like, you know, you have to go, how bad can it be? But I think that's probably what holds people back. So if you can step away and not be married to what might happen, some good stuff and some bad stuff may happen, but there you go.
No, I think that's why it really stops people from taking the first step,
Mm-hmm.
because you're already way, way down the road. Like, well, I want to write a book. Well, it needs to be a bestseller. Well, it needs to, but,
How about you write the first
well, that'd
sentence?
be
How about
great.
you do that?
How about writing a page, right? But I mean, um, and there's something to what you say. You have. I'm not going to
Not,
tell you I enjoyed the process of writing a thesis, but at some point I realized in the process I was learning.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
Yeah, and
expanding my brain, and I was learning, and it was challenging, but I was learning. And um, yeah, you can't go all down. There has to be some, I don't know if it's always enjoyment of the process. Writers always like it when they're finished writing, as you two know,
Mm-hmm.
writing books. It's great to have something done.
I think
But
you have to feel
I
some
like the writing
growth.
process. Listen,
Is it growth maybe, that you just have to feel there was some sort of you don't look for the end, but if you can at the end of starting whatever it is, feel that there's a little bit of a stretch there for you, like maybe that's enough.
yeah, but I do think, and I find this true of students too, they get so far ahead of themselves. Well, what if this? Well, what if that? Well, what if this happens? And I'm like, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah.
What do we need to do today? Right? What are the first steps toward getting toward your goal? Let's concentrate on that first step, because if we get too far ahead of ourselves, we will never do it. You know, we're just it's too overwhelming.
Yep. One thing at a
And
time.
I think that's where we, like when I started the blog, you know, I had no idea where it was going, if it was going anywhere. And when I started, nobody was looking at it or paying attention to it. It was literally for me.
Yeah.
Probably the first time you did a podcast, it was for you. You know, I don't know who was first listening. You do it because you feel compelled. It's important to do. Maybe it's self-therapy. I know when I write, when I create things like that, it's generally starts off that way. And then if people come along and listen and get value out of it, great.
Mm-hmm.
But 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 I didn't know where that blog was going. It could have just ended with the blog and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But at some
Yeah.
point I there was value in the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
you have to find. The value, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. The value in the process, the value in the journey.
I love that, the
Yeah.
value in the journey. When I
Yeah.
did my book, which by the way, there are still English teachers all over Philadelphia that are needing oxygen over the fact that Kristen sat down and wrote instead of just talked her way through the entire thing. And when I did mine, I did it as, I'm like, who am I to sit here with all this knowledge and not share it to another mom that is raising blind children? And when I put it out there I had two editors. One was a teacher of my son's and one was my 6th grade English teacher. She was my first editor. And she actually came back and said, Kristen, I am so lucky to be a part of this mission. This is amazing, but you still write like you talk. We have a lot of work to do. And the other one said, Kristen, I think that there's too much Kristen and Philly in this. If this is going to be like on the New York Times list, it's got to step up a little. And I was like, you know what? That'll be the next one, because this one, the mom that's crying on the couch cannot handle big words like I can't. It's just got to be me holding her hand and talking to her. And
Right.
it resonated more.
And it's just authentically you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what needed.
Yeah. We fixed some sentences and spelled some words better.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But it's resonating in that community. It is, it's moms and teachers and parents, not even in the blind community, that say, oh my gosh, you know, it's so spoke, because there wasn't any of the mumbo jumbo around it, because that isn't me. And I always say it was the resource I wish someone handed me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what compels you to go on the journey.
Yeah.
Right?
But there's that resist.
You're on a mission.
Yeah.
You're on a mission to share that story because you know you only wish you had had it. You only wish you had had that friend along the way to help.
So speaking of sharing the books, you put all of this down in your book, I Dare Me. So tell everybody, oh yeah, oh, you know what why do I not have, I have a copy of it. Why did I not have that with me? I do have my copy of it. It's on my bookshelf. So tell everybody.
Hey, what kind of author would I be?
Right?
I didn't have it here.
Right? She's got hers, you got yours. So tell everybody where they can find that. And I can attest to the fact that it is an incredibly fun read, because some of the stuff you did was really wacky.
Yeah, true. I've had people tell me they were laughing out loud somewhere when they were, reading it somewhere.
Totally. But you get those bits and pieces of inspiration and courage and all that in there. So it's a great book. Where can they find it?
It's called I Dare Me. And it's my own journey of what happened, but also along the way, tips for you to go on your own journey. And then in the back, there are 365 ideas. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, that's great.
That I did, because when the Random House or Penguin first said, write a book, we were like, 365 pages for 365 dares. And they're like, no, we're not going to have a 365 page book. So anyway, it's an easy read, honestly. I call it a good airplane beach read, coronavirus read. You need 2 hours to distract yourself. It is on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it. There's an audiobook there. I actually went to Barnes and Noble to stock up on books, and it's still in Barnes and Noble.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
But it's still there.
We should do an I Dare Me.
Nobody's going to a bookstore right now, but yeah.
Mary Fran, we should do an I Dare Me challenge and see how many of the 365
Oh my gosh, we should totally do that.
take on the whole list. We might have to enlist our entire Facebook group to help and see who can do what. That would be fun. While everybody's at home to start that.
Oh, I really like that.
Mary Fran gets
That's
the
a great
scorpion,
idea.
though. I nominate you for the scorpion, and I'll do some.
Fine, I nominate you for the polar bear plunge.
Sorry, will we be social distance in the water?
That's right. I mean, it needs a whole new year of 365 coronavirus dares.
There you go. There's your second edition.
So while socially distancing.
Yeah. Oh my God, that could be fun.
That would be so funny.
Oh,
Okay, so we need to tell people where they can find you. We know we can find the book on Amazon. Where can people kind of connect with you
I'm
to just
all over
kind of
social media. But right now I've got an Instagram where I'm doing daily. So if you want more of this,
we do.
Yes.
yeah, Monday through Friday, I always post a new daily dare. So it's at Luann, Luann _Cahn, CAHN. Or you can go to my website, luanncahn.com. Just run it all together, LUANNCAHN.com. And you can sign up for my fairly, like bi-weekly blog post if you want to hear more of my crazy thoughts. And you can find me on Facebook and Twitter as well.
I love it.
I'm everywhere now.
Right?
Resisting. But actually, that's a funny segue, because I wanted to say real quick before we wrap up that I think it's important that I would bet that what's resonating, one of the things that's resonating the most with people watching and listening is how many times you said you resisted before you reset your mind. Because we talk about reset, rise, and reveal, but resist is the first thing that happens to most of us. Like, no. And then when you see the beauty of after resisting and then going through the brilliantly resilient process, the brilliance of that comes out of it. So I appreciate that you were so honest about how many times you resisted.
Yeah. And I mean, if you can recognize when that resistance comes in, if you can recognize it, that would be like a first step, knowing like, okay, I know what this is. This is my no voice kicking in, but you're not going to win. I'm still going to do whatever, eat the scorpion, whatever.
There's brilliance on the other side of resistance.
There is brilliance on the other side of this.
I love it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day, because I know you're crazy busy even in these times. So thank you for joining us and sharing your brilliance and resilience with the Brilliantly Resilient crew. And we're going to put these links up on our Facebook page to your stuff, because I want to see people take your dares.
Well, I can't, guys, if you have dares, I'm all in. Dare me. I want to know.
Okay. All right. There's the challenge.
Members are doing. I'd love to know. I'd love to hear from you. But thank you so much for having me on your show.
It was a pleasure.
It was awesome.
Luann Cahn, everybody, one of our Philly superstars, joining us today. And we will have the replay up for this soon. Check out Luann all over social media. Get the book, I Dare Me. It is a great coronavirus beach, everything else read. And we'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.